It was never meant to be a pretty exit for one Jim Boeheim, but after 47 years as head coach of Syracuse University and over 60 years as a member of the program, college basketball's longest tenured coach closed the curtain on his complicated, dare I say, career. It seemed fitting for Syracuse to lose that game the way that they did. Boeheim not drawing up any sort of competent play in the timeout, Syracuse missing a contested shot and not getting back in transition just to lose at the buzzer to a team Boeheim himself accused of being bought by way of NIL in a city he openly hated and in a conference tournament he never wanted to be part of. All of this, of course, followed by an evasive, awkward press conference in which he accused the media of not realizing he had already given his retirement speech the previous weekend. And just like that, he was gone. So, with all of that in mind, if my intro has not made it clear enough, I've always felt firm in my opinion that Jim Boeheim is indeed the most overrated coach, not just in the history of college basketball, but in the history of sports. And I recognize this could make me a hater to some. So what did I do? I called the biggest hater I know in the world to get his opinion on the matter. Chris Brown. No, not that Chris Brown. The certified hater, Chris Brown. What's up, brother?
What's going on?
Happy to have you, man.
Thanks. I disagree with the Jim Boeheim opinion you have.
You don't like that?
No, because when he was winning, which was early in my days and before your days, he ran the Big East. So when his reign started to diminish is when he had Carmelo Anthony and he won the championship, and after that it's been downhill.
It certainly has been.
He couldn't recruit the same. He couldn't. I felt like coaches left. It just wasn't the same. He was more teetering around 500 to stay afloat.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to do something fun. I am myself something of a hater, right? Chris, in my
underrated
opinion,
hater.
I'm an underrated hater. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth. We're going to list our top 5 most overrated coaches in the history of sports. I'm going to go ahead and start with my number 5. Coming in at number 5, most overrated coaches ever, I'm going with John Calipari. Okay, hear me out. John Calipari, good coach, great recruiter. In my opinion, he's had college basketball's best roster more times than not, and he has one title to show for it. You can go down the list: Devin Booker, Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox, Karl Anthony Towns. The list goes on of great players that have come in and out of Kentucky, and there's one title to show for it. So for that, he's my number 5. All right, you're number 5.
I want to expand on the Calipari thing.
Go ahead.
He is overrated, correct? Because he's only good when he has great players. The last couple he's had average players, average NBA talent, and he's middle of the pack. So I agree with you with your number 5. Keeping it in college, but college football, my number 5 is Mr. Brian Kelly. This man wins a lot of regular season games, but when it matters, he is 0-3 in 2 playoff NCAA championship games and 1-0 in the championship game. All blowouts.
Yeah.
He is not good.
Here's the thing. To me, he topped out at Notre Dame. He did everything you can possibly do at Notre Dame. Now, does this make him... This is why I left him off of my underrated list, because I think he took Notre Dame to the level where he simply got to the point where you were getting out-recruited by way of guys that Notre Dame does not necessarily allow you to recruit, and Alabama and LSU do. Hence why he left to go to LSU.
Notre Dame wants a certain type of player.
Yes.
More academic, more smarter, versus the Southern schools, they just want football players. It's a factory they produce, and that's it.
It's a factory. Now, listen, Brian Kelly belongs on this list. I didn't put him on mine, but I have no objection.
No, he's in there.
I have no objection to your number 5. Okay, let's move on to my number 4. This is getting interesting.
Yep.
I, too, am going college football. Slightly different pace here, though. I'm going with Kirk Ferentz of Iowa football. Okay, hear me out. He's currently the
Talk
longest.
about mid.
Yeah, mid. Kirk Ferentz is currently the longest tenured coach in the Big Ten, right? That's pretty crazy. And outside of the last few seasons, Iowa has been a literal non-factor in any level of college football. Okay. In 2 decades of being the head coach, he's had at best a borderline top 25 recruiting class, and they're 9-9 in bowl games, and they've only had one New Year's Six bowl game victory. Listen, you could tell me Kirk Ferentz and Iowa are limited in recruiting because of where he is, but to me, the problem is the fact that you're running an archaic offense where you're running inside right, inside left,
High
power
school football,
runs
baby.
up the middle, while Ohio State and Michigan are running spread options, running spread eye formation, and having fun playing football. To me, Kirk Ferentz belongs on the list of most overrated coaches. That's my number 4.
Nice. I would agree with that. Mid is mid. He is that.
Yeah, he is that. All right, you're number 4.
My number 4, we're going to keep it college, but college basketball. My number 4 is none other than Bob Huggins.
Ooh, interesting.
Does he have great teams? Yes. Is his team always in the mix to make the tournament? Yes. But he has only made 2 Final Fours. Never been to a chip. But he is well-renowned as a great coach, but he doesn't produce.
I hate to agree. I hate agreeing with you on this one because I love Bob Huggins, but
when it's winning time, he ain't winning, brother.
Nah, he's not. And they're gonna miss the tournament. They missed the tournament last year.
They're missing it this year too. They got blown out yesterday.
And it's looking like, barring a absolute robbery from the selection committee, they will once again miss the tournament.
A robbery.
As much as I love Bob Huggins, I agree. But I will say this. I was doing a little research, like just kind of Googling other people's opinions. Bob Huggins was the one I saw the most on lists of overrated and underrated coaches. He appeared a lot on both, but I would lean overrated.
Overrated. He's been coaching for a long time.
A long time. Okay, number 3. I don't think you'll have any objections to this, but I'm curious. Number 3, most overrated coaches, Doc Rivers. Hear me out. No coach in the NBA in my lifetime has done less with more talent. We revere him as such a great coach, right? Do you know how many times Doc Rivers has won Coach of the Year?
Once or twice.
Once. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know what his record was that season when he won it?
Was he coaching the Clippers?
He was coaching the Orlando Magic in 2000, and he was 41-41. That is
because that team had nobody probably.
That is an even 500 record. Only Johnny Kerr, who is a Bulls head coach, who could walk into this room right now and I would be like,
"Who's
Sir,
that?
Can I help you?" He's the only one who had a lower win percentage in NBA history and still won Coach of the Year, and that was back in 1967. So Doc Rivers, to me, is number 3 on this list. Your number 3.
My number 3, I'm going to European soccer.
Oh, okay.
I am going. This is going to surprise you because you know he wins, but he doesn't really win. Okay? Pep Guardiola from Manchester City.
Ooh.
Okay? Manchester City is owned by the Saudis, right?
Correct.
Major money.
Correct.
Right? Man City wins the Premier League. Yes, they're great in the Premier League. Most money in the world of all European football teams. Can you answer this, Henry? Has the man ever advanced in the Champions League?
He's never won the Champions League.
Never. And that's usually reserved for the team with the most money and the best players.
You're right. Yeah.
And now Man City has an older team. They can still win the championship. I mean, the Premier League. But he's good at the Premier League and nothing else.
You're right. And, okay, I have a take on this. Tell me if I'm crazy or not.
I
think acquiring Erling Haaland, who I love, and you and I have argued about him a lot in the past, I think getting Haaland makes it harder for City to win the Premier League because now the key to beat it's become
everybody has to adjust their game to him.
Exactly. And if you stop Haaland,
he's kind of one-dimensional.
He is. If you stop Haaland, you stop City. It's that simple. But I think it increases their chances of winning Champions League having Haaland because he's that type of player.
Yeah, I can see this summer if they don't win The Premier League, well, even if they do win, they're going to need an influx of new players.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. I think a couple of those guys are on his way out. All right. I respectfully disagree with your number 3, but I don't, I don't
You don't hate it.
I don't hate it. Okay.
You can see.
I could see it. Yeah, I could see it. All right, let's go on to my number 2. I'm staying in the NBA. I don't feel like I really need many stats to back this one up, but number 2, most overrated coach in the history of sports, Mike D'Antoni. For me, the biggest thing for D'Antoni is just the complete refusal to coach defense. I can't grasp my head around the fact that you can have an offense so good, and if you just spend 10% of the time getting these guys, because in the NBA, it's not about necessarily teaching schemes on the defensive end. It's just about getting guys to try.
Yeah.
And he never was able to do that.
At that level, you know what to do. You
exactly.
Just gotta do it.
Yeah.
There's no coaching going on like that.
No, there's not.
It's motivation more than anything.
And he was never able to motivate guys to give 10% of effort on the defensive end. So for that, he's my number 2, because we can go on and on about offensively. I have nothing bad to say about the guy as a coach, but
Hall of Famer, changed the NBA. Yeah. Had Hall of Fame players. Been far, never made it to the finals. I don't think he'll ever coach again in the NBA.
I don't think so either. But you're number 2. You're number 2 overrated coach.
Okay. It's a tie in the NFL between 2 guys.
Okay.
You pick. All right.
Okay.
I got Mike McCarthy and John Gruden.
Oh, John Gruden's the answer. Yeah. John Gruden's the answer. Yeah. I was never a Gruden guy, and to me, Gruden became so predictable in how he picked his players in the draft, just as far as like he made his draft selections as if he were a former ESPN analyst.
Yes.
Like just going off guys that were talked about a lot, guys that came from big programs, and some of them worked, like Hunter Renfrow, like he turned out, to be a good player. That was a good pick on his end. But some of these guys that he picked, it felt like if you were playing Madden and you just wanted the most popular guys and just picked them. That's what John Gruden became.
And he thought it would work.
Yeah.
And he's just been terrible.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy.
He went to Vegas and that didn't work out either.
In fact, it was worse. Yeah, and then getting
they paid him crazy amounts of money.
Yeah, never worked out.
Not to work.
Yeah, never worked out. That's a fair guy to have number 2. I don't hate Mike McCarthy on there. I always thought, with talented teams, he never did a whole lot. I don't blame him for the Cowboys stuff because I think they have a lot of holes, a lot of stuff to figure out. There's a lot of finger pointing there. But my number 1.
They have the players, bro.
To win a Super Bowl?
No, to be consistent.
To be consistent. Yeah, fair.
And they're not.
Far from it. My number one. Jim Boeheim, by far. It's not even close. To me, Jim Boeheim sits on the throne alone as the most overrated coach in the history of sports. Period.
The most overrated coach in all of sports is Jim Boeheim.
Yeah, I mean,
no way.
Jim Boeheim.
No way.
Jim Boeheim completely.
The man has won.
He's won one title in 47 years.
Okay.
I'll give Jim Boeheim credit for this. He built a legit basketball program.
Correct. Syracuse was nothing before Jim Boeheim.
Okay.
He gets respect for that.
Before Jim Boeheim, like that was like the 50s. Like that was such a different time.
Stop.
Listen.
Before Boeheim, it was the 70s, bro.
Jim Boeheim gets credit from me for building a legit basketball program, a national contender year in, year out, in a place where people don't want to be. It's cold. It's lonely. You don't recruit well in upstate New York.
There's nothing in upstate New York. Don't worry about it.
I give Jim Boeheim credit for that. But Jim Boeheim, I think we agree that even though it's hard to justify this lately because the conference is down, historically speaking, the ACC is the highest level of college basketball that we have. Historically, not right now. Jim Boeheim disappeared once they got to the ACC. Jim Boeheim Syracuse teams were a non-factor in the ACC since they joined the conference.
To be honest, they're already faltering when they left the Big East. They weren't great.
No, they
No.
weren't. No, they weren't. They were on their way down. And
they were just living on their name, bro.
To me, how you go out matters. I think that's how you stamp your career matters a lot. And what we just witnessed over the past 72 hours or so with how Jim Boeheim went out with that loss, with that awkward press conference, to me, that I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna remember how Jim Boeheim left this Syracuse program.
Maybe that's how he wanted it to be.
Maybe, but if that's the case, then that's even more the reason he's my number one overrated coach in the history of sports. You're number one. You already said it, but let's hear it.
Mike D'Antoni, 7 seconds or less. The master of never winning anything with great players. Okay, Hall of Famers, all-time records, whatever you want to name in the NBA. Mike Tony's probably coached him, but he didn't coach him to win.
Yeah,
you need defense. He can't even spell defense. Okay, so that's my number one. I will not move off of it.
Yeah,
he'll probably be number one forever.
Yeah, I have no issue with D'Antoni on number one. All right, Thanks for watching. Go subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.